I'm Jason. This is Blayne. It's been a busy, awesome week. GORUCK Selection happened. It came. It went. We had a finisher. Alex it was a real honor to have such a front row seat, and I feel like a lot of people felt the same way because everyone's come out of the woodwork after this sort of live coverage that you spearheaded. So your first selection here, not your first selection, but your first selection, GORUCK Selection, what'd you think?
Well, you told me that it was going to be electric. You said GORUCK Selection every year, it's amazing. And I didn't really know what you meant. I didn't know what to make of that. Like, I saw the photos last year and some of the Facebook stuff of, the guys out there at your dad's house crawling around in a field. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's so electric about that. But I was unprepared for the GRTs and just the general public to come out and be so enamored with what was going on. At one point we had thousands of people watching Alex dig a hole in the middle of the night, and I was stunned. Also, I was seeing it for the first time. It wasn't totally shocking to me because I've seen that kind of training and those kinds of things before. I'm no stranger to GORUCK, obviously, but I couldn't believe how many people were interested in it. I couldn't believe how many people were just kind of watching and commenting and being actively involved. When we decided that we were going to try to live stream it, I just thought we'd kind of hold the phone and let people watch, and then just kind of instinctively thought maybe we should add a little bit of, context here or there based on the comments coming in, and then that evolved into, something a little bit more. And by the end, my mom is watching, my best friend from high school and his wife are watching.
My mom was telling me he needs rest. You gotta take it easy on him.
No.
I'm watching her on the live stream.
My mom was literally texting me at the end, asking how 062 was doing, and then tell 062 congratulations for me. And I was like, I cannot believe you guys are so into this. So yeah, I was impressed by the cadre and by the event. I was impressed by the candidates, by and large. But I was more impressed by the community and how they came out. And I'll tell you what, there was, a little bit of stuff, I think, in the Tough group and other places, saying that people from outside GORUCK were seeing it for the first time and they were shocked and asking silly questions and all that kind of stuff. I will tell you that there wasn't much sniping. There wasn't much negative. It was vast majority of people were really supportive of the candidates and of the event. And, that's always good to see, obviously.
Right. So let's take that step up and talk about what GORUCK Selection is and sort of what it's not. We call it GORUCK Selection. We gave it a big name with selection as the word. And it's a big event that is designed to honor Special Forces Assessment and Selection, which we both went through, which is representative of all of the special operations selection type schools. And we take the standards and the sort of, what would you call it? The
sort of the feel, the ethos behind it, maybe.
Right. So we take the ethos behind what it means to be at selection, where there is an absolute standard, and the standard doesn't care about you. It's like the world. The world doesn't care about you. People might, and they'll sort of help you through a lot of things, and you have to realize that over time in your life. But the world doesn't care about you, your successes, your failures. And what you find is that the type of people who make it through Special Forces training are comfortable in an environment where the world hates them. And they will figure out a way to dig really deep inside of themselves with nobody to help. And they will figure out a way to win. And so that is what makes a really valuable team member, is if you have those kinds of individuals who are willing to sacrifice the time, the effort, the energy of preparation, the commitment that it takes to get themselves to a point where they're willing to do these things by themselves. Once you insert them onto a team, that's electric. So that's sort of the foundation. GORUCK runs about 1,000 events a year. GORUCK Selection is the single event that is not team-based. All of our other events are physical challenges, mental challenges, stuff like that, but it's always team-based. The role of the Special Forces cadre leading the event is to build a team. And here, it's different. It's the tip of the spear for endurance events, you might say.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about the individual is really important because in the special operations environment, it's important that every individual that shows up to a team, that there's no question about where that person's at in terms of their ability and their commitment. So therefore the team can start to build itself stronger and function at a higher level together. There's just not a lot of time in that environment to have any hesitation or any doubt about the people around you. You at least need to know that there's some sort of minimum threshold that these people are going to adhere to, and there's a certain level of training that you know they've received so that you can take those individuals, make them into a really good team and move forward. So at all of our other events, the 99.9% of the other events we do, we're working on teamwork, leadership, communication, because it's not as important as where these people are coming from. You can take people from an incredibly diverse background at very different levels of fitness and sort of familiarity with GORUCK, and the Special Forces cadre can get them to start working together as a team and accomplish the mission over 5 hours or 12 hours or whatever the event is. GORUCK Selection, again, that name is more about this test to see if any of these individuals are committed and prepared enough to sort of, be in that kind of elite status. And they're not going anywhere. We're not going to stick them on a Special Forces team because they did GORUCK Selection. But I think there are a lot of people out there that want to test themselves and they want to see if they can kind of achieve at that high pinnacle of endurance and suck. And I get a lot of questions from people like, if they want to do this, why don't they just join the military? Well, I got news for you. A lot of people out there want to be able to test themselves in this kind of way. There are people that climb Everest, there are people that run ultra marathons, and there are people that do GORUCK Selection, because it's not just folks that are in the military that have that sort of human yearning to test themselves against the highest standards.
Well, it's what JFK said. We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Yeah. That's what we do as Americans. We push ourselves, we throttle forward, we find impossible goals, we train our ass off, and we win. And so, I see all of that stuff too. I mean, let me relate my personal story very briefly, which is I served and signed up for the military after 9/11 because of 9/11. If I'm not 22 when that happens, imagine I'm 35 and that happens. That my window is past, right? So there's so much timing that goes into those kinds of decisions of service and to join the military. I mean, my dad, my uncle, they grew up in the Vietnam era when, yes, I know some men I love who served in Vietnam, and it was an honorable thing then as it is now. But it was harder for the normal person to say, I want to serve in the military after you see how they were treated. So we can't go backwards and say, well, you didn't serve in the military after, in the 70s and the 80s, there's something wrong with you. It's the wrong approach. It tears the fibers of America down when we do that type of stuff. The same way that it tears the fibers of America down now when we say, hey, we've got a bunch of Special Forces cadre executing an event based upon Special Forces standards, and the thing that comes to mind is, why don't you just join the military? We view it as an opportunity to teach and educate about what it means to serve. And so you can serve or you can not. You can serve in a lot of different ways. But ultimately, as you said, there are a lot of Americans who just want to push, test, challenge themselves. And this represents a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think you made two really good points there. One is that there are a lot of ways to serve. So just because someone doesn't wear the military uniform doesn't mean they're not serving their community or their country in a profound way in a lot of cases. So let's not lose sight of that. The other thing is, being in the military entails a heck of a lot more than doing 4 to 8 hours of GORUCK Selection. I mean, even just Special Forces Selection is 24 days, and that's just to see if you can earn the right to start the course, which is like 2 years. And then once you get on a team, that really is just the starting line once you've kind of earned your tab and your beret or your trident or whatever your special operations.
They tell you that when you show up too, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like, oh, you're a Green Beret, welcome, this is awesome, we're so happy to have you.
Now you get a smoking jacket and a Cuban cigar. Like, no, now you get to really start getting your ass kicked by the members of your team, and the expectations just go up and up and up. And then, a lot of guys on my team, in fact, showed up, and then they went to Sapper Leader course, and then they went to Ranger school, and then they went to Sniper school, and then the list goes on and on. I mean, that's one of the things that I think people don't really appreciate about the special operations community or the military in general, is that you don't earn those badges and tabs as an end to itself. Those things are just a means to a greater end, which is the opportunity to serve amongst the best and to serve at the tip of the spear. And that's why I didn't quit Special Forces Selection. That's why I didn't quit Ranger School. That's why I didn't quit any of these things, because I was seeking the opportunity to serve amongst the best and at the tip of the spear. And that meant more to me than any badge or tab. So it was a long, long road that involved years, not just of training, but then of combat. And by the way, my family gets to get drugged through that process too. I mean, it's just not the same thing. So this idea that, military type training or events shouldn't appeal to you unless you just want to join the military, like that's not really a good argument.
So you hinted at your why. Mm-hmm. My why is identical to yours, right? Tip of the spear, time of war, defend America, all of that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. As this is an event loosely based on our selection process, it's really important that people have their whys. Yeah. When you don't, if you show up without a why, if you don't show up ready, we'll get to that later. If you don't show up ready, you're not going to make it. And if you don't have a strong why, you're not going to make it. So ultimately, that's a segue to why is the pass rate so low at GORUCK Selection? We're looking at sub 2%, really.
Yeah. So I've witnessed firsthand one GORUCK Selections, and you've done more, but I think with putting a fresh set of eyes on it, here's what I would say my kind of two biggest takeaways are. One is, I think people just are not showing up completely prepared and committed for what it's going to be. And that's no offense to anybody who signed up or participated in selection, but that's my honest assessment, which is, 74 people signed up, of those 36 showed up.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. I know people, you sign up early, life gets in the way, you get injured, you get signed up for a wedding, whatever. I get it.
You get guilty, you get forced to go to a wedding.
Yeah, right. You get a sick parent. Look, there's plenty of reasons why whoever, 74 signed up, only 36 showed up. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big number. So some percentage of them, just couldn't make it. Another percentage of them just chose not to make it. I don't know. It's not worth dissecting probably, but that's where you start. So of the people that signed up, less than half actually showed up to toe the line on the first day of selection. So there you go. There's a pretty big cut right there. Then of the 36, only 21 met the sort of the basic PT standards, and then I think only 15, right? 15 passed the push-ups, sit-ups, 5-mile run, and the ruck.
Yeah.
So
which by the way is you can 100% control.
Right.
You can't entirely prepare for the stress of the most stressful times at GORUCK Selection are silence, because you're left to your own thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. But we're not really there yet in the administrative portion. We're not really at the most stressful portions yet, right? Yeah. You can 100% control your own universe for the first, 7 hours?
Yeah, more or less. And look, this happens in the military too, by the way. So this isn't unique to, people show up at Ranger School and fail the PT test. And people show up at SFAS and, this happens. But I'm always a little perplexed by that, because presumably GORUCK Selection or any of these things is a big undertaking, and it's serious, and you have to prepare. So I'm always a little surprised that such a high percentage of the people just show up and they're not physically prepared to meet the known kind of minimum standards. So, I would say at least show up prepared. I would argue that you need to show up kind of over-prepared, because if you can only meet these minimum standards under ideal conditions, the conditions are not going to be ideal. You're going to have to ruck 12 miles right after the 5-mile run. It might be really hot that day. You may not sleep that well the night before. There's all kinds of other factors that play in. So, you should be able to well exceed the minimum standards, just knowing that you're going to be somewhat degraded and the conditions are not going to be optimal. So I would start there. So you look at 74 signed up, we're already down to 15.
Yep.
Just
and how many cadre at this point? We had some later, but I think we were at 9. There's about 9 cadre on 15 participants.
Yeah, which that's not good. The better scenario is when more of them pass the 12 miler.
It's also unheard of, right? So when you start dealing with why is the pass rate so low, I mean, why is this event such a formidable challenge? It's not just the weight, it's not just the miles, it's not just the any of that. It's the fact that it's completely unknown to you. Even if we could give you the play-by-play. Hey, you're gonna do a PT test. Hey, there's gonna be a 4-hour welcome party. Hey, there's gonna be 3 hours of sandbag babies. Hey, there's gonna be, what's next?
Water bucket carries.
3 hours of water bucket carries. I mean, we can give that to you. So we get this thing about, is the cat out of the bag now? I hope so, because we want classes that have more than one person that passes. I mean, in the last 18 classes, we're averaging less than one person per class. So we've got sort of we want to meet the kind of person that can pass this. The reason why this is such a challenge is because you have, in this case, 9 Special Forces cadre whose job it is to enforce a standard that you don't know. That will crack some minds. And it's not that people aren't physically ready. They are. You've got people training by doing triple heavies, by doing, back-to-back, 24-hour, 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 back-to-back-to-back events. You've got heavy, tough, light, back-to-back-to-back, right? People are training their body correctly to show up for this thing ready. It's the mind that is a really hard thing to train. But if you show up, the further you make it at any of these events that, like this, I guess, since this is the only one, the further you make it, the more training your mind gets. And so it's, ultimately we want to see more people pass. We want people to be mentally tougher. We want people to be physically prepared when they show up because it's just such an awesome feeling to watch someone succeed at this level. And we would like there to be more people that do it. I mean, we're not going to compromise the standard for it, but you wouldn't respect us if we did.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that kind of leads me to my other observation, besides the preparedness piece, was this idea of self-selecting. Mm-hmm. And that speaks to sort of the mental game. And, at Special Forces Selection, they have this mantra that they try to beat into you, because again, they want you to be successful, which is don't self-select. And what that really means is don't convince yourself that you're out of the game. And we heard Alex talk, maybe you can allude to some of this more personally, but what happens is you start to feel a little behind. You start to feel a little beat down. You start to get down in the dumps and feel sorry for yourself a little bit. And you start convincing yourself that you're not good enough, that the other people that are still in the game are stronger than you.
The cadre help.
And by the way, the cadre in your ear telling you you're falling behind. You're not going to make it. You're the weakest one here. Yeah. I mean, they're helping you to have these realizations, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem is you start buying it. And you start thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to catch up. I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough. And then you start playing let's make a deal. And you start self-rationalizing, well, even if I get through this event, I probably won't be able to get through the next event. Or even if I get through this, I'm going to be so far behind, they're going to make me do it again. And you start the monkey mind starts going crazy.
If they make me do that again, then I'm probably going to quit, right? That's the first lie that you tell yourself is the probably part of that, because you're definitely going to quit, right? And so Alex is a great example, and the reason why his story has resonated with so many of us, me very much included, is that I watched him fail last year. I watched him quit. It's a difficult thing to watch when you know that somebody should be ready for more. And I've seen this every single class that I've been a part of. You know that somebody has more and they just say that's enough, at least for today. And so some of them come back, a lot of them don't. Alex is the redemption story. Last year, we were, we cadre, it was Garrett, Mocha, and myself were out there around my dad's soybean field. And they were, you always pit them against each other so that you have the weak zebra to pick on, right? Because lions are smart, and they figure out that they just have to get the weak zebra first, right? They're hungry, so you go after the weak one. And so you pit the candidates against each other to see who is faster. And what we did was we just said, hey, start tossing the sandbag around the field. And it's, I don't know, 2/3 of a mile or a mile loop around the soybean field. And he just kept falling behind. So we're letting Mark go, who was 3.5 last year. We're letting him go because he's crushing it. So I don't want to focus on him at all, right? It's too much effort. You can't crush someone, you can't bring them down if they're winning. They know he's like, I'm winning. Life's good, right? Go away. Go focus on the weak seed. I'm ahead. You want to focus on somebody else. So we focus on Alex and just beat into his head. You have to do the same as they do. You can't do it. You're a lap behind. A lap. That's hours and hours and hours of your time. You can't do it. You beat it into their head again and again and again and again. And they start to believe what you're telling them. Or if they don't, which he's of course, Alex says at the end of last year, he's like, no, I wasn't really affected by the cadre. Oh, okay, right? I don't believe that for 1 second. So, they start to believe it, and he just, in a weak moment, said, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm too far behind. Rationalizing where he was with his place in the universe of the standard. The truth of the matter is that every evolution, you can't win them all. You just have to maintain forward progress. You have to maintain that spirit of, I will not quit. And, if the cadre comes up to you and says you're done, then you're done. That's happened.
And not until, right?
And not until. That's happened, as far as I know, 2 or 3 times in the history of GORUCK Selection, not counting the administrative portion. The reason is usually someone is, and I'm not talking about medical stuff because there's been a few of those.
Yeah, we had a few this year that were legit, man. You feel bad for them, but they're just puking or cramping to the point where it's just unsafe for them to be out there. We have to be responsible for that kind of stuff,
Yeah, we're not. This is life trumps your desire for this event. So, but it's been very rare. We had one person in Bellbrook a couple years ago who just said, "I'm not quitting. I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to sit here and not move. I just got to rest." That's not this event. You're done. They were rationalizing with the cadre like this was some sort of. It reminded me of dealing with my kids, right? Like, I'm going to get this, you're just going to do it like this. Actually, no, that's not how this is going to happen, right? And so, basically, everybody self-selects. And the cadre are really good at getting people to do that. And we had a lot of that this time, too many. And I think we're going to see some redemption next year. That's my hope.
Do you want to talk about some of that specifically? Because there were a couple of candidates that you and I were both, frankly, now that it's over, I can openly say we're kind of rooting for.
I'm rooting for everybody.
Yeah,
but you start rooting for them more once you see how much work or how much suffering they're willing to endure, how bright the human spirit is burning inside of them, and you're gravitated towards that as a human being. You see that, and you want to push it a little bit further and further and further, and you want to see really what someone's made of, and it's awe-inspiring. You can watch it, and that's you can get goosebumps watching it, but feeling it in their presence of somebody that has that aura is really awe-inspiring.
Yeah. So I will say this year, 15 finished the 12-miler on time. So at that point, I respect them for being fit, but they'd only proven that they were reasonably fit. That's it. 7 finished the welcome party, which those people certainly get my respect. And there were a couple during the welcome party that got med dropped or whatever they were doing their damnedest.
Yeah.
Their bodies just were shutting down for one reason or another, and we had to move them out. So that's one thing. But 7 finished the welcome party, and I think 6 then started the next evolution. We had one that kind of, once it was time to fire the engine back up again after the welcome party, was like, I'm too tired, too dehydrated, can't do it. But at that point, everyone who was still in the game at that point, I guess the 6 that started that next evolution, I was hopeful would be able to continue to do well. There were a couple who I thought were just barely hanging on.
You can
at that
sense
point,
it. You can smell it.
4 that looked pretty good, and that's basically how it shook out, right? If I'm remembering correctly, 4 made it to morning.
Yeah.
Made it to daylight on the second day. And I looked at all of them and thought, all of these people could make it. I mean, the odds are not,
No, the odds are terrible.
The
They've
odds
got,
aren't
what,
good.
30 hours left?
Yeah. But at that point, I looked in kind of all of their eyes and I thought, these guys have all proven to be extremely tough. Mm-hmm. They all seem to be pretty committed and prepared. So I think all of them theoretically could make it at that point. And so seeing them go one by one, those last, I guess, 3 that left us, leaving us with only Alex, that was tough because I felt like all those guys had a shot. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I have a pretty trained eye for this kind of thing. And I was watching them pretty closely and I felt like, man, any of those 4 could have made it. I don't know that I would have picked Alex as the strongest of the 4.
Alex failed the push-ups, by the way, during the PT test.
And was like the last. Was he the last guy under the wire on the 12 miler or one of them?
He almost missed the 12 miler. I mean, look, the important part in that is that, like any military school, you're playing by their standards, and you have to meet the standards. And so, if you barely meet them, then you can still pass the course, right? But obviously, some people train too much for the welcome party, they're endurance junkies, they're whatever, and they think that they're going to be able to gut through it. Usually doesn't work out, right? Alex knew what he was getting himself into. Most importantly, he knew mentally. And he was ready mentally. I mean, he was completely in it to win it. He said his only oh shit moment was when he had to retest on push-ups.
Isn't that crazy how that happens?
Yeah.
Like, you see that all the time in sports and stuff and in tournaments. You'll see a team almost get beat in the first round or something like that, and then they get together and go. But so, do you want to talk more about Alex? I don't know him as well as you did from last year, but I spent a fair amount of time just sort of talking to him. I don't think he even knew who he was talking to when he was droning or whatever. But I asked him a lot of questions, and I was really impressed with his preparation mentally and physically. I mean, like you said, he showed up both committed and prepared.
Yeah.
And, it takes a commitment to be prepared, so I guess commitment's kind of the overarching word, but I guess I wasn't stunned, but I was really impressed when he talked to me about his training regimen, his diet, his nutrition, like just his whole lifestyle basically being adjusted in preparation for GORUCK Selection. I don't know, you've known more finishers kind of than I have over the years. Is that common, or do you think a guy like Alex is preparing at a level that we haven't seen?
So out of the gates, it's the norm. What he did is absolutely the norm for finishers. And it also, it reminded me of what I did when I was training to pass the Special Forces qualification course. I woke up every day and I was scared to death that they were going to show up and say, you just don't meet the standard. Go away. I wasn't going to quit. But I was going to force them to tell me that I didn't meet their standard. That was the only way they were going to get rid of me. And so every day when I had free time or downtime between schools or whatever the case would be, I mean, I'm up running, rucking, swimming, hitting the gym, letting my body sleep, recover, figuring out what to eat and when, all that stuff, because that's what I had. That's the only thing I could do to prepare to the best of my abilities, was to make sure that my body was not the thing that let me down. And if something happens in life and you mentally can't handle it, then it wasn't meant to be, right?
You snap your femur,
or you get unlucky, right? You can't prepare for unluck. You can be prepared. Everything that you can control. And so that's what Alex did. He gave up for months and months and months and months. He gave up anything but preparation for GORUCK Selection. Gave up booze, gave up coffee, because when I think about it, it's not that giving up coffee or even booze will make you so that you don't fail selection. It's that the discipline that it requires to sort of say, I'm willing to sacrifice this. Yeah. The more that you are willing to sacrifice sharpens your mind that you have so much more to lose. It's kind of why, Cortez burned the ships when he showed up in the Americas. Like, I've got everything to lose if I don't win this fight. And that's kind of what he did, you know? He methodically trained over the last year after his failure, which was a fire in his belly. And he methodically trained over the course of the next year to prepare him for the opportunity that he then got here. And he really got it come, 24, 25 hour mark when he was by himself.
Yeah, that's called being invested.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's why it's almost, his physical preparation was as much mental preparation. Because every time that he said no to the beer, every time that he got up at 5 a.m. to get on the rower, or do burpees or lift weights or whatever, every time that he said no to the beach weekend, those were physical ways to prepare. He was taking good care of his body, but more than that, he was making that mental investment in the ultimate outcome.
Yep.
Because by the time he showed up at the starting line of selection, he had invested so much of his time and energy, and he had sacrificed so much that he would be damned if he was going to quit and not finish. And I think we all kind of have these similar stories. And watching this has reminded me a lot of my kind of younger days.
Yeah, me too.
When I was in the Army, and because I tell people if they just ask me, I'm like, yeah, I just really wanted it bad. Like, how did you pass selection? How did you do this? And I was like, well, I really wanted to be a Green Beret. And that's kind of true, but now the more I think about it and the more I meet people like Alex, the more I remember stories like I was in Baghdad in 2004 and I destroyed my ankle and was on crutches and then a walking cast and whatever, but I had a date for selection in November, which was right after I was supposed to get home. And so, you spend 12 or 13 hours a day out on missions, and then I would still spend 2 hours a day or more rucking or running or at the gym doing whatever I could, even with my stupid walking cast on. Was still at the gym every day training, and I was exhausted. I was the only one there. I would get up, I would train in the morning, and then I would go to breakfast by myself, which was the best, by the way, because it was like the time on the base when everyone was sleeping. Mm-hmm. So I'd get up early, I would go train, I would go have a big breakfast by myself, and then my guys would start to wake up and we'd start prepping, and around dinner time we'd head out for our mission that night, and we'd come back. But I had a logbook of 60 workouts in my Write in the Rain notebook. Remember those things?
Yeah.
I made a grid. You had grid squares in them.
Yeah.
I made
box of grid squares, right?
Box of grid squares. Yeah, I was a lieutenant, so I was good at finding those. And I charted out 60 workouts, and my rule was none of the workouts were that brutal, but my rule was for 60 straight days I would do the workout. And if I missed one because tactical or operational reasons or whatever, they were such that I could just double up the next day. And I found that notebook when we were moving up here not long ago. And there was an X. I mean, I made every workout for 60 days in that period. And so, it's kind of cute to tell the story about how bad you wanted it or whatever. But the truth is, you had to be prepared or you had no shot to start with.
Yeah, I mean, you put a mute button on whatever Alex said in the last 6 months. It's not what you say, it's what you do. So whomever is judging you when you show up at that start line, just pretend that they're judging you as if you had a mute button on your entire existence for the last however long. And that's about right. You show up ready or you don't. It's got nothing to do with how tough you are or what you said on Facebook. Did you put the work in? Because there's only a few that ever do. And they're the few, the very select few, who find out if it was enough. Because you push your body so far, so fast, it gets broken down so much in such a short amount of time. That's when you have the real opportunity in life to figure out what you're made of. And Alex found it out. He found it out the first time, and he didn't like what he saw. And he worked his ass off for a year. And he came back, and he won. And I just got goosebumps, and you did too, because it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I would say on that is that it's a rare person who will put in that level of commitment to strive for something that they know they may fail at, or maybe it's even likely they're going to fail. That's a whole nother topic, which is why all these people have my respect, is that how many of us right now, look yourself in the mirror right now and ask yourself, when's the last time you committed to something and actually showed up and gave something a shot that you knew there was less than a 50% chance that you'd be successful at? Never, not in the last year, not in the last 5 years. Like I'll ask myself the same question. It's hard to answer because most of us live pretty comfortable lives. And yeah, we run the marathon, or we sign up for the Spartan race, or we do a tough, or we do a heavy. But look, the pass rate for toughs is like what, 94%, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, the pass rate for heavies is a little lower, but it's still relatively high. I mean, these folks are you willing to put in a year worth of effort or 6 months worth of effort of that level of commitment to show up and toe the line, knowing that there's no guarantee you're going to be successful. In fact, there's a better than a coin flip chance you're not going to be successful. And I think that's what I always admired about people in the military that would go to, they would go to selection, or they would go to Ranger School, or they'd go to these courses, not whether or not they were successful. I was never impressed with people's ability to be successful at a military course. I was impressed with people that showed up. I don't want to be too harsh here, but I always bristled a little bit, or maybe a lot, at people who would give me the old, well, I was going to do that, but. I was going to go to selection, but I have a family. I was going to go to Ranger School, but, this or that. Sure. I was going to do this, or I was going to do that. Like, look, I'm not judging you if you haven't been to any of those courses. I'm not at all. But I just don't like hearing the kind of, I was gonna.
I hate regret too.
Yeah,
I hate regret from anybody. Sure. So ultimately, if you've got a dream or you've got a goal, pick it. Train your ass off and win. Accomplish it. Sometimes the bigger goal, actually, all the time, the biggest goals take the longest time. There's no shortcuts. To those people out there who would say, I'm going to show up and gut this out, or the people who would say, I'm going to sign up and that's going to motivate me to train for it, it doesn't work like that. You've got to embrace the process. The process is the quiet moments when nobody's looking. Your life is on mute. Are you putting the work in? If you want it bad enough, you will, but it's an actions-based thing. It's not a words-based thing.
So one more thing we want to talk about, and by the way, if you guys have questions that you want for Jason and I to answer, you can send them in the comments right now. Bomber's over here. He's monitoring the comments, and he's kind of collating all the questions. So we'll talk just for a little longer here, and then we will shut up, and Bomber will feed us some questions. We'll be happy to answer some of those from you guys. The last thing that we wanted to kind of get to is this idea of rucking, and more specifically, rucking as the foundation of Special Forces training, and where GORUCK maybe fits into that. So we've been thinking and working on this for quite a long time, and you guys are going to see more and more of this over the coming months and year and even beyond. But we're putting a lot of work in right now to this concept of rucking really being, it's not our concept, it's just the truth, it's a fact that rucking is the foundation of Special Forces training, and we want to help the GORUCK community and the broader community utilize rucking and the associated training, bodyweight exercises and exercises you can do with a ruck, maybe a sandbag, to really build, your physical fitness, your performance, lead you to be more successful in whatever endeavors you want to in life. So I don't know, do you want to hit on some of this and talk about?
So it's really about sort of a Special Forces performance type of lifestyle, the SF way of life, if you will. And on the fitness side, on the training side, when you show up, the Special Forces qualification course is not what you see at, say, BUDS, right? BUDS, Navy SEAL training, the foundation of that is swimming and water, maritime operations. The foundation for basically every other selection process that I know, right, is can you carry weight over long distances? And the reason why is because when you get to fight in places like Afghanistan, or you're going door to door in Iraq in neighborhoods, you have a lot of weight on your body. And it's, weight over time and distance and all of that type of fun stuff. And if you can't carry the weight, then you can't perform. So it's the foundation for Special Forces training and Special Forces assessments and selection, which is just a land navigation course, 45 pounds dry. That means water doesn't count and food doesn't count. And you move from a series of checkpoints throughout your 24 days or whatever that is, broken up into various allotments, right? So if you can do that, then they'll train you on, working together as a team in things like a wedge formation where you've got even more weight because ammunition's really heavy. So
Radio batteries, as you know.
Radio batteries are very heavy. And so when you take it at the foundational level though, rucking is nothing more than moving with weight on your back. And how much weight and how fast you go determines the sort of output that you get and the goals that you'll be able to achieve. It's an alternative to running or any of the type of endurance and aerobic type of activities. It has a little bit of anaerobic as well. So we're really kind of charting new territory here in terms of focusing on rucking as something unto itself that also is a foundation for other fitness endeavors.
Yeah, and so I mean, spoiler alert here a little bit. We're not like coming up with an app that we're going to try to sell you or any of that stuff. Like we believe in this like so deeply that like, we want to bring rucking kind of to the masses and this type of training. So we're working hard as we speak at creating the content and the training programs and the things that are going to be associated with this, so that people have access to good, smart, information, knowledge, and programs, so that they can leverage that to be, not just fit, but be able to achieve a high level of performance, which is really what it comes down to, I think.
And one really important part of that, which is that when you're on a special forces team, if you get injured, then somebody on your team has to carry you and your stuff. That becomes a huge burden on the team. And so that's just not the way that you want to approach training. You want to approach training from, I want to push my body to the max. I don't want to get injured. There's a lot of things that you can do, even when carrying excessive loads. You train your body to get stronger, you can carry more weight, longer distance, and you can do it correctly and safely so that you're not worried about getting injured.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Also, I guess of news is this type of format, like we've got it going in a couple of different mediums right now. We're doing it on Facebook Live. We're also recording it, and we'll get a little higher quality version of this. Quality meaning better video and audio. Like you and I can only do so much, right? We can't fix this too much, but that'll be over on YouTube. And then I think we'll also end up stripping the audio off some of these and getting it over into a podcast. So there's a lot of work for us to do now that I've just signed us up for publicly. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's good stuff that people will benefit from. So if you guys have any thoughts or feelings on that, please let us know. But we're looking forward to getting a little bit more content, a little bit more kind of inside baseball out to you guys as much as possible. So we'll work hard to do that. So we're gonna kick it over to Bomber. Now, Bomber, do you have some comments, questions, some things that we can answer here?
Yeah, we're picking out the coolest questions. I hope y'all are all right with that.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you think you'll see a higher selection pass rate now that people have seen it in live motion, have a better idea of what to expect and what kind of mental preparation it takes?
So let's repeat the question first.
Yeah, I'll take this. So the question was, do we think we'll see a higher pass rate at GORUCK Selection now that people have had an opportunity to kind of see it live via the
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
Come get some. That's what I say. Come get some.
Yeah. So I'll answer it three ways. One, I hope so, because I want people to be successful and to meet the standard. No problem with that at all. Two, I think so. I think we will. But three, I'll caveat that a little bit by saying I don't think more people will pass because they saw like what the evolutions look like, or they know kind of what exercises to do. Because as Jason stated earlier, we could tell you exactly what the evolutions look like, and I don't think that's going to help you. The reason I do think we'll see more people be successful ultimately is because we're sharing this kind of stuff, and we're digging a little deeper on why people are being successful. And I think now people have a better understanding of what, not just what the training looks like or what the standard looks like. I think people have a much better understanding of what the preparation and the commitment looks like in order to be successful. So I think we'll have some people starting probably today, or maybe starting a few days ago or whatever, that will start putting in the real preparation and demonstrating the real commitment required to be successful. So it's my sincere hope, and I really do think we'll have more people start to be finishers at selection, not because they know what's coming, but because they know what is actually required to be successful, and they'll put in the work. And if they do, great, they'll be successful.
So there's a couple people out there who have this in them that have failed this already. And so if we can help them and people like them, I don't know about percentages because that's determined by how many people sign up. Right. But if we can really and directly impact those very, very select few people who really are willing to put in the work, then we're winning, because it is awesome at the end.
Yeah, it's like Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile record, and suddenly everyone realized it was possible. Mm-hmm. And so they started putting in the work, and then within whatever it was, a few months after him breaking it, like a ton of people were running. Anyway, I think that could be sort of the live coverage and Alex and like his methodology. I think that could crack it open for a few people. Not a lot, but for
maybe more great people will see it, and like you attract higher caliber athletes, and then more will pass. So we'll see.
Better inputs will yield better outputs. That's basically what I'm saying. Is I think if we can get more people to the starting line that are more prepared, then we're going to have more finishers for sure.
All right,
Bomber.
How is it possible he failed the PT test, and how does the retest work?
Okay, got it. So this is standard in any military school that you go to. If you fail your first round of push-ups, you are moved to the back of the line, and then you are retested by a different cadre so that there's not some sort of bias or whatever, which is probably more relevant at GORUCK than it is in the military, frankly, because we know a lot of the people personally that show up to our events. But you get a different cadre to test you, and they count as methodically and accurately as they did before. It's just, I actually checked. So anyway, he passed the he passed the push-ups the second time, no problem. And then by a lot. Yeah. Right? So he was sitting on that couch right there at the end of the event, and I talked to him about his oh shit moment, and that's great, right? And he's like, he kept saying, break the plane, and he thought that meant go down lower and stuff like that.
I think he was just going too fast. And you see this a lot on PT tests, the military over, is that a lot of times people that are really good at push-ups, they get the 3, 2, 1 go, and they start just banging them out so damn fast. And my understanding of it is, talking to the cadre, is that like he was ripping through them, but they weren't like necessarily reps all the way below parallel, all the way to locked out. Yep. He was just going so damn fast, and I think that ended up being the snag. And then the second time through, he just did them more methodically and had no issues. So that's my understanding.
It's not. So people ask, how can you fail a PT test? I mean, part of it is self-induced. There's a lot more stress. I mean, you guys didn't really see on the live feed the amount of stress that goes into the packing layout. But there's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of screaming about.
There was a lot of sweating. Just
a lot of sweating.
Dumping and repacking their rucks.
Dump your ruck, repack it.
Don't show up with a ruck that's way too small. By the way, just bring a ruck that's plenty big to fit.
You think? I disagree. I would bring less. I would bring the bare minimum, and I would put it in a smaller ruck. That's me. Once he gets submerged, the bigger the ruck, right? It's the SF curse, the Special Forces curse. The bigger the ruck, the more lightweight shit you put in it until it's 200 pounds.
Yeah.
All right, what's up next, Warner?
All right, the Army has age restrictions. What do you feel the age sweet spot is for selection, or bell curve of age, and oldest and youngest selection finishers today?
All right, I don't have the data on oldest and youngest. You probably could ballpark that at least. This is a tricky question because I would say I'm 38. You're 38 too, right?
Yeah.
We're same age. I'm 38, and I could say with full confidence that I could kick my 28-year-old self's ass. Like, I'm in better shape at 38 than I was at 28, and maybe it's close, but it's not that close. So I think that it really depends on the individual and kind of what they've been through, how beat up their body has been in their younger years, and what they've been doing to take care of their body and train, as they get into their 30s or 40s or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bit of a tricky question. I would say anyone who's taken really good care of himself and they're doing things to prevent injury, they're eating well, they're training smart. I mean, there's no reason somebody well into their 40s couldn't be successful. Beyond that, it probably starts becoming a tougher proposition. I think that mentally, we're going to see people, I mean, and again, I'm kind of just guesstimating here, but I would imagine, because some people are kind of mature beyond their years, but I would say you're more likely to be successful at GORUCK Selection if you're a little older, a little more mature, have lived a little bit more life, probably maybe have failed at one or two things. Maybe
a lot of things.
Yeah, maybe you've had a failed business or been divorced or something like that. Like, that's another reason I think that this version of me is a lot tougher than the younger version of me, because when I was 28, as a reasonably talented young man, like, I signed up for things, I did things, and I succeeded at them, and I thought, this is how it goes. And then as I got a little older, life smacked me in the face a few times, and I had to, basically decide, Was I somebody who was once successful and then crashed, or was I somebody who was once successful because I was made of the right stuff and would endure and thrive? And I think that's why you're going to see people that are slightly older probably be more successful.
Yeah. Late 20s, 30s is probably the sweet spot. 18, not the sweet spot.
Yeah. Well, you could do one or two more, Bob.
Okay. Do you think it's better to ruck with weight for some distance, or ruck with or lightweight for some distance, or ruck with lots of weight for a shorter distance with the target purpose of general fitness?
So, this is
Repeat
not
the
a
question.
So the question was, for general fitness, do you think it makes more sense to ruck with a lightweight for a little further distance, or to ruck with a heavier weight for a shorter distance? So the answer here, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, but the honest to God answer is both. There's this thing called work, or work capacity, and the formula is very, very simple. It's load times distance divided by time. And so write that on your whiteboard or wherever at home or in your notebook. Load times distance divided by time. And all you want to do when you're training, is to vary up those three things. So maybe you increase the load a little bit, but you go a shorter distance, and it takes you the same amount of time. Or you lighten the load a little bit and you go a longer distance in that same amount of time. Or maybe you go with the same load and you walk for a longer time and that gets you more distance. I'm not trying to get crazy with the math here, but load times distance over time, just vary those three things up in your training, and that's where you're going to get the most success. It's not going to be heavyweight short distance or lightweight long distance. It's both. So vary up those three things, and that will help you improve your work or your work capacity, and that'll make you stronger and a better rucker.
Yeah, importantly, if you don't really know what you're doing yet, if you're not comfortable, start out with less weight. And it's always easy to add, but if you don't know what you're doing, as with anything, you can get injured if you go too heavy too fast. Your body needs to develop some of the muscle cells to be able to bear that type of load. So it depends on how much weight we're talking about. I would say, somewhere between 20 pounds and 50 pounds is the sweet spot. I mean, for me, I don't go more than 50 pounds, and we both have carried 150 pound rucks, and it's not really to be recommended, and don't do that, right? So 50 pounds is about my max. I get plenty of fitness out of that, and I go at a reasonably good pace for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever that looks like, sometimes a little bit more, but especially if I've got, the 20-pound kid and the front loader on the front. It's awesome, right? You should try that too out there, dads. But yeah, I mean, you got to just be safe, healthy, all that fun stuff.
All right, last one, Bomber.
Yeah, off topic. What are some books that change your lives, and what would you recommend that GRTs read?
So Bomber asked a very existential question, I guess. It was, what books changed our lives and what we would recommend for GRTs to read? So I don't know. I have a couple that I give to people a lot. So I don't know that they're like the best two books or have been the most influential with me, but the books I give away the most, I send people a copy of The Alchemist a lot. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't read The Alchemist, I would strongly recommend that. I'll give you the punchline, which is basically that when you're working within your purpose, when you're working within your personal legend, they call it, the world will conspire to help you, which means don't be scared of doing what you're supposed to do or what you feel is right for you, even if it seems hard or it's not like, what your parents want you to do or whatever, because when you do, things will start falling into place for you, but not until. It's not going to fall in your lap. So The Alchemist, I would say the other book I've probably given away the most is 0 to 1, which is by Peter Thiel, and it's basically this idea that, if something exists, going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, etc., is relatively easy and isn't really changing the world. But the people that are changing the world and what really matters is going from 0 to 1. How do you create a team or a product or a company that takes something that wasn't once there and makes it into something? And to me, that's really important. In my old job at Team RWB and even here at GORUCK, what I'm most proud of is the fact that if it were to go away tomorrow, it would matter to people. And to me, that's important.
To people.
Right, it would matter to real
not investors or
not to the market,
to
or to
real
investors. People, right? And so that means the world to me. And we got to the point at Team RWB, and we're certainly at the point here at GORUCK, where if we just said, hey guys, surprise, we're closing up shop tomorrow, the website's down, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the world, and eventually, like, we would get absorbed and, you know, life would move on, but it would matter to people, and it might matter a great deal. And to me, that's work worth doing. So I love reading 0 to 1 because it kind of speaks to what do you need to do to put yourself in that kind of position. So I guess those would be my two.
Okay. The first one is sort of maybe slightly obvious, but it's almost Moog Mile time, Black Hawk Down time. So I love the book Black Hawk Down. It was one of my favorite movies and books, and I feel like it's very representative of what it's like. Like A Day in the Life, there you go, Black Hawk Down. I also happen to know a few of the guys who were there, one of whom is really one of my mentors in life, and I love him like as much as you can love another human being. And you know, he's talked to me about a lot of stuff, but he was there, and this is the one he's like, I lost too many friends that day, you know, and he can't talk about it. So this past year I said, we'll talk about this in 10 years. And he said, I think I might be ready by then. By the way, this happened in what, 93? Yeah. So it's been a while.
24 years ago.
You know? So that's a really accurate, to me, book and movie, and really nice job to Mark Bowden writing it.
Yeah, there's plenty of crap out there. That book
that book is awesome. Yeah. The second is, I'm an Ohio kid. Never forget your roots in life. And so The Wright Brothers is one of the best books I've ever read. It's one of the greatest stories I've ever read. It's about a team of two who took on the world to dare hugely to say, we can do this. We're just going to stick to our guns, and we're going to invent an airplane, by the way. We're going to be the first ones to do it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we sit here and we say, hey, we're gonna bring rucking to the masses, or we're gonna, you know, leverage the special forces way of life that we know so well and help inspire other people to live a little bit closer to their communities. And we want to dare greatly as well. Just so you find the inspiration from all different kinds of people doing all different kinds of things. But the ones that inspire us the most, the human spirit really burns brightly in them. And that story it's a book of triumph. And I love, as I loved watching GORUCK Selection, I loved watching Alex win, I love a great story of triumph. So those are my two, Black Hawk Down and The Wright Brothers.
All right, there's 4 to start with, so I think those are all pretty good. All right, well, we've been bumping our gums for quite a while here. For those of you that have made it to the end, we certainly appreciate it. Again, we're doing this on Facebook Live, but we will kick over the slightly better audio and video maybe to YouTube just as soon as we can clean it up and get it over there. So you're welcome to check it out later or share it with friends. And I think we're going to be able to strip the audio and get this into a podcast.
We'll see.
It won't happen right away, but maybe. But guys, thanks for tuning in. We've certainly enjoyed it. It's pretty fun for us to sit here at Scars.
Yeah.
And just have a couple of beers and talk with you guys. So if it's something that you guys enjoy, we'd be very, very happy to do it again. So let us know, and we'll look forward to talking to you all next week.